Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As you already know, this is your US General 5-drawer tool cart with side tray and D compartment. Just got off of work, just made it over to the storage now. As I always state, as usual, I always keep my signature lingering somewhere in the background, my Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Okay? Okay, on today's segment, I got a few things, want to take a look at. So we ain't gonna go too hard with an introductory. We're just gonna jump right into it. Okay, from the very start, a few days ago, as you already know, me uploading a few videos of Sears closing 90% off liquidation sale. And in the process, I wound up picking up a few items. Okay, I just happened to notice something yesterday in one of the accessory packages that I actually purchased. Okay, when I was in the store, and even after I actually purchased this item, there was an item that was in the packaging that technically I didn't realize when I was purchasing it. So, more enough, it just mainly more became a extra item as an A plus. Okay, it was an item that technically I already have, but I wasn't purchasing the accessory set for that particular item, which was a 1/4 inch ratchet, as you can see right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the contents from out this package so that we could take a good look at the contents as far as what came in this accessory package, and I'm going to get them out so visually you can get a good look and get a good idea. I did find the fault in the ratchet, so we're going to take a look at that because with Craftsman's and Sears, and years ago they stopped making tools in the USA. Okay, and a lot of stuff is made by China. Okay, so let me get these contents out so that we can get a good visual on what's going on. Okay, now as you can see on top of the tool cart, there's basically 7 items that are sitting here. What you can see is a 1/4 inch ratchet. Okay, you have a flexible 1/4 inch extension right here. Then you have another short extension. You have one longer extension. Then you have a universal joint here. Okay, you have a T handle, and then you have a 1/4 inch breaker bar. Okay, more enough, when I picked up this little accessory kit, like I stated, I didn't know that there was a 1/4 inch ratchet in the set. So technically, I really didn't personally care about that. What I was actually buying the set for was its 1/4 inch drive tools, and mainly more the breaker bar, because I actually do have one of these, and I use it quite often. It's very convenient for me. So with having the extensions, the extra extensions along, this was for the reason of the pickup and the purchase, and for the universal joint and the flexible extension, as you can see here. Okay, but what we want to take notice to, okay, is Craftsman's, and as you can see, it has its literature on the front: worn and wear by protection. Okay, and as you can see, there's nothing else stamped on a 1/4 inch except its part number, which is 43523A-AH. Okay, also comes with a T handle and a couple other essentials, like I just stated. Okay, yesterday there was something that I noticed about this 1/4 inch ratchet in its design. Okay, and I don't know if you can see that or hear that, but the anvil is flexing a lot. Another thing I just happened to notice, something with its switch mechanism from left to right is very faulty on this ratchet. Okay, tools like this, I don't care nothing about no warranty or anything like that. I just basically have these, for home use, something to keep in a kitchen drawer, something like that, just to attack whatever situation. Okay, but in the process, I did pick up another accessory kit that also came with 3 Craftsman's ratchets, which is 1/4 inch 3/8 drive, and 1/2 inch drive. So I'm going to want to take a look at that to see if I'm seeing the same issue out of its 1/4 inch drive ratchet, and to see, if it's really just that much of a poor design, because the make is a China make. It's not a make of the USAA, okay? But to give you a good idea and a good view of what I'm talking about, just give me a moment. Okay, as you can see now, I have my original Craftsman's USA made drive tools out, and as you can see, this extension and that socket and this 1/4 inch breaker bar right here is an original make of the USA, and as you can see, forged in the USA, part number V43523. Okay, and if I can get it to focus in on the socket, as you can see, made in the USA. Okay, and on the extension, if it will allow to focus in, made in the USA, as you can see here. Okay, there is a big difference if you can take notice to its print. Okay, as far as its name, the China make has a more higher typed finish, which more basically more shinier, as you can tell between the two. Okay, and if you notice on the USA made how it has a hole, um basically it's just like you can put it on a keychain or something like that, or basically hang it up. The one thing that I did notice about these 1/4 inch drive sets is that as far as the extensions were concerned, the extensions do lock in place very tight, so I don't technically see any issues with those. Technically, compared to later on in this video, I will show a set of 1/4 inch snap-on drive extensions from 1/4 inch hex with locking and non-locking, and I'm also going to show how certain brands work well with their own brands, and when using them with different brand tools, um, the fitment ratio between either the extensions and the anvils, or some of the drive tools and sockets towards the anvils of certain particular cordless tools, okay, and how they work. All right, so I just wanted to point that out real quick, and we're going to take a look at the other 3 ratchets real quick in their design to see, if I find any other faults. Okay, now as you can see, I have the ratchet set out. As you can see, is a 1/4 inch here, 3/8 drive in the middle, and 1/2 inch drive towards the outside. Technically compared between the 2 1/4 inches, they are 2 different designs, as you can basically see. The part number on here is 2072A-AF, and on the 3/8 drive you have 20722A-AG, and on a 1/2 inch drive is 2023A-AF. Okay, what I notice about these designs, these are a little bit more beefier. um I'm still feeling that same type play in the 1/4 inch. Okay, as you can see, it has its quick release feature. This one right here doesn't have as much play as technically this one. You could actually, you know, you can hear it. And like I said, as you can see, like the switch is just rocking as if it's basically not engaging correctly. Okay, like I said, these are, beat up tools. These are not tool truck brand quality tools. These are good for the homeowner, or if you're doing DIY work. These are, not ratchets that you are basically going to be working with day in and day out, 5 and 6 days a week, because sometimes or another they will basically fail on you. Just like mainly more any other brand tool, depending upon how hard you are on your tools and so on and so forth. As far as these handles and stuff like that is concerned, it's not really my style. They are very beefy at the handle, okay? But I guess when going to break a fasten, it does help. They are kind of heavy. They're not technically well balanced, okay? All the weight is actually towards the back end of the ratchet from what I can feel on the half inch, and the same thing here with this 3/8. They're really not that well balanced, as you can see the curvature in the handle. So basically you can tell all the weight is at the back end of the handle. Okay. Okay, so now what I wanted to do is basically get a tool truck brand and a more high quality professional type equipment side by side of, these Craftsman ratchets. Like I said, these are basically for DIY use. They're not basically for professional use. Um as you can see here in the 1/4 inch, which is a USA made, these are fixed. There's no flex in none of the snap-on ratchets and things of that nature. When you're basically using equipment like this, you can tell the difference as soon as you get some of these items in hand. You can basically tell what quality is testically compared to what is unquality and unprofessional. Okay. Okay, in yesterday's video, I was demonstrating a few things, with a couple of sockets. Okay, I never really go off to, tell and mention how, in my opinion, as you can see, this is the Tecton brand and Tecton Impact sockets, as you can see here. Okay, and on this end, this is a 21 millimeter deep and shallow half-inch drive, and as you can see here, this is a 3/8 drive, 15 millimeter, deep and shallow. Okay, on both of them. Um, Not for nothing, like I always show and how I always state, I have a lot of different impact sockets, ranging from all different types of brands. Okay, from Stillman Pro to Snap-on to Tecton to Milwaukee to Mako to Craftsman's. I think I even have a off-brand of a few Cornwell impacts in deep and shallow. Also, I just don't have them technically here with me at the storage. I believe that's it. A few of them is still in the shop back at work. But when it comes to these Tectons right here, I have been using these Tectons for quite a while now. Okay, and in my opinion on them, just as well as I do have a lot of tool truck brand impacts, these impacts have held up quite well. So in my opinion, for the money, and would they hold up in a professional setting on an everyday use, 5 to 6 days a week, I believe that they actually will hold up. I actually haven't had any issues with them. Okay, as you can see, I've never rounded anything off with these, and I use these heavily on my pneumatic impacts just as well as my cordless. um the fitment ratio from these sockets to the anvil are very tight. I actually do not get any play with the when I first bought this set, and I remember the very first time that I slapped these sockets on my Milwaukee half-inch high torque. I almost thought that the drive size of my impact was wrong, or either the drive size of the socket was wrong, because I was having an issue and a hard time getting the socket on. It was basically so tight, it locked in so tight. And then, to remove it, I had to actually use a little force just to, technically get it off the anvil. But that wasn't an issue. This was something that I actually liked, due to the fact of impact and moving from a Stillman Pro impact gun to a cordless Milwaukee hard torque. Okay, the Stillman that I used to use, it had a 2-inch anvil. So with the 2-inch anvil, more enough, you weren't using sockets deep like this. You were mainly more using flip sockets on a 21 millimeter and 19 millimeter. Okay, and just so to say, for what reason why I pulled the 3/8 out is because I use these heavily on my 3/8 stubby Milwaukee, just as well as I also use Milwaukee impacts. Okay, but to give you a good idea, good visual of everything. Okay, basically now to give you a good visual, as you can see, this is the hard torque. This is the 2676 model with a 5.0 battery. As you can see, over here, this is a 1-inch Stillman Pro deep impact socket set, and as you can see here, this is that 7/8 gray pneumatic, and you can see the height differential basically between the two sockets. This 1-inch would be an extra 22 millimeter. Okay, as you already seen the Tectons. Okay, and then as you're taking a look right here is a Milwaukee 3/8 drive SAE standard. Okay, just as well as you have your 3/8 stubby here with a 6.0 battery, 5.0 battery, and then you have your initial uh, Milwaukee lug nut socket set, which is the same brand testically compared to what's being displayed at the moment. But what I want to show is the fitment ratio of these tucked in impact sockets to the anvil testically compared to its own brand. Okay, and more enough for the 3/8 drive, I'll get out well, I have the lid down, so I can't pull out the macos at the moment, but we'll just have to do what we have here at the prior moment. So let's get to it. Okay, so like I was saying, when it comes to the placement ratio, okay, as you can testically see, it rocks a little bit, but that's actually not the socket that's rocking. It's because the anvil has to have a little play in the way that it's designed, but the way that these lock on, they lock on a whole lot much more tighter than testically some other impacts that I normally use. Okay, um these do hit hard just as well as, so to say, is the gray pneumatics. Okay, and I also use the gray pneumatics heavily on a hard torque, and if not technically on a hard torque, but the Ingersoll ran 1/2 inch. Okay, so just to get a idea of that. The same thing basically what goes more enough for the stubby. Okay, when I'm driving, you don't feel nothing. Okay, just hear the power. Okay. Okay, so now I have the 1-inch Stillman Pro on the anvil. Okay, and you can see it's a whole lot much more flexing, rocking between the socket and the anvil. So this is what I mean about mixing certain equipment with other brands that technically it's not designed for, because the Stillman Pro deep impacts and shallow impacts that I do have, these were always initially used with a Stillman Pro pneumatic air gun, which was 1/2 inch. Okay, and I actually at times I use these with adapter or reducer, because I actually had two different versions of the Stillmans, but the one that I would use the most and most heavily was the one with the 2-inch anvil. Okay, which in most occasions I didn't necessarily always use just a regular standard deep impact. I use flip sockets. for the 2-inch anvil, because it's a bigger difference, especially when you're trying to get a certain clearance, and especially with taking off certain rims and how deep the rims could be, whether stock or aftermarket. Okay. Okay, so as you can see on a 3/8 stubby, okay, I basically got a 5/8 on here. As you can see, this is a chrome moly design. Okay, and as you can see, the slight flex and the slight play between the socket, and this is a brand on brand socket, but not for nothing, the Tecton locks in a whole lot much more tighter than this standard Milwaukee socket right here. I have another stub, well, two other stubbies in 1/4 inch drive, and I actually have these Milwaukees in 1/4 inch metric. But my assumption will be that technically they'll possibly the ratio fitment will basically be the same, because I see the same type of flex when I'm using 1/4 inch snap-on extensions with a 1/4 inch Milwaukee stubby with an anvil. Okay, I'll give a demonstration and I'll look at that also. Okay. Okay, now as you can see on the hard torque, right, I have its Milwaukee shockwave impact duty lug nut socket set on here, which is more designed for the application. And these are 6-point metric. Not for nothing, these lock in just as tight as the Tectons, okay, with not much flex at all. Like actually, when I was just putting the socket on, it was giving me a hard time, basically just like how the Tectons were in the beginning when I first purchased the Tectons, and I basically put them on the anvil of this gun for the first time. Okay. Well, like I said, these are 6-point metrics here. With the nylon cover, once it's off, these are thin walls. Okay. Okay, to jump into this real quick, uh, like I always state, this is the 1/4 inch stubby right here with an anvil and friction ring, and over here you have your hex driver, okay, with extended depther, which is 3/8 drive. Okay, what you're taking a look at here is 2 extensions. These are snap-on. This is 1/4 inch. Okay, this is your normal standard here. Okay, and then you have your locking 1/4 inch with a hex shank. Okay, this is for this particular driver here, and this one is for this particular driver here. So as you can see, there's two different brands, which is Snap-on and Milwaukee. But when it comes to this set right here, technically I don't advise this set to be used, for this particular gun. When using this will actually work excellent right here. You shouldn't have no issues. As you already know, with the Milwaukee adapters, how the 1/4 inch hex locks into the shank, locks into the collet here. As you can see, the plate, it's locked in, but it still rocks back and forth. Okay, on a in and go out. Okay, as you can see. But to give a good, perfect example at how, some brands don't mix correctly with some other brands in design. Testically, once I realized that these were mainly not really that good for this, then I just chose to still decide to keep these, because they still can be utilized, with my 1/4 inch drive ratchets and so on and so forth. But I'm gonna give you a good look at for what reason why. Okay, to go over to the 1/4 inch stubby first, just want you to take notice, and as you can see, just how much play the extension has on its anvil, which is a snap-on to the Milwaukee 1/4 inch. Now, it's not to say that it's not on tight, because it is on tight, okay? But this is just how much play, and this is what I mean about the ratio fitment between the extension and the anvil testically itself. So as you can see, it is locked in, okay? But this could be technically an issue either when driving or removing something. And that is, the point of the matter, because you don't want to strip something out, or if you're drilling, driving, you know what I'm saying, you could either cross thread something, either on its way going in or coming outwards. Okay, so that's basically for what reason why, a set like this I don't suggest. Not for this particular tool, at least. Okay. Like I demonstrated, with this being able to come in and out, even though it's locked in, okay, the snap-on still does the same, okay, but it's not as much play from this locking extension than it is testically compared to this regular normal standard snap-on extension to this 1/4 inch stubby here. Okay. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to take a look at some of the fitments testically, compared to some of the same drive sizes, okay, and breaker bars, and the sockets that I just actually chose at the moment, because I don't want to go into the chest over here and be digging, to get out the snap-on equipment to do the demonstration. I just testically want to see, how just certain sockets, their fitment ratio towards certain anvils. And as you can see, here is a proto breaker bar right here, and the two that you see sitting towards the back, one is a 3/8 drive snap on, and then in the back you have your 24-inch extended breaker bar. And the sockets that I'll just basically be using at the moment is detecting a 3/8 drive Milwaukee, and I got the gray pneumatic over here in the Stillman Pro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test the 1/2 inch drive Stillman Pro first on the proto breaker bar, and then try it on the snap-on to see, its placement, fitment ratio, see whether, there's some type of play. Okay. I don't have nobody, standing around me to record so that I can hold the tool up. But I just locked it in, and basically the Stillman Pros locked in on this proto right here very tight. Okay, there's technically really no issue with this placement fitment here coming from this 1/2 inch drive, which is Stillman Pro, pardon me. The next one I'll try over here is the gray pneumatic, and then I'll go to detecting on this particular 1/2 inch drive breaker bar real quick. Okay, as I got the gray pneumatic on and I went to test it, I wasn't finding any issues with the gray pneumatic. Neither the gray pneumatic was locking in testically tight, and really there's no real rocking or anything like that coming out of the proto breaker bar and the gray pneumatic. The reason why I'm basically doing this is because at times, whether you're using a pneumatic impact wrench or cordless impact, or sometimes when you have certain particular sockets on certain ratchets, okay, and when you're working, especially with pneumatic air tools or cordless impact tools, there's plenty of times where you impact and you go to pull away, and the socket, pulls away from the anvils, okay, from certain particular guns, and this happens because the placement fitment is not really correct. And on a lot of sockets, you have ball detents, okay, as you can see here, okay, and the ball is supposed to be lined up with that hole. So sometimes, as you can see, basically here on the 3/8 drive. So sometimes what happens is that, some people, they complain and talk about, how a socket keeps falling off. But I don't know, at times people throw out mixed reviews and things like that because they be using the equipment improperly. So who's to say that, when they place the socket on an item, that it wasn't lined up properly? That will definitely be for what reason why it wasn't locking in and it kept falling out on them. Okay. That was something for another reason for why, I put out the hard talk, because in the past there's been plenty of videos out there, and a lot of people, they're always throwing up a whole bunch of different mixed reviews and stuff like that, and a lot of times you can't really tell or really know whether they have a mechanical background or actually know how to operate the equipment properly. Okay. Okay, so now as you can see on a proto breaker bar, I have the Tecton locked in on the anvil, right? And I actually have it in locked in properly on the anvil so that you can basically get a good idea of what I was talking about and just how easy, it just basically slipped off. Okay. So that was the example there. Okay, so now as you can see, how it's locked in now. Okay. Now, I just happen to notice with this Tecton compared to this half-inch drive, there is a whole lot much more play in this Tecton testically compared to that 1-inch Stillman Pro, which is a 22 millimeter, and that gray pneumatic. So this was something that I just basically noticed because, as you can see on these sockets, they also have ball detents. And when I put these sockets on, they were locked in a position with these ball detents. Okay. Okay, so now moving along over here to the snap-on 3/8 drive, and as you can see, I have a Milwaukee thin well, deep well socket, and it's locked in its proper position with the ball detent lined up. But there is actually a lot of play, okay, where that it doesn't feel, and you can see how it's rocking testically compared on the anvil. Now on the cordless, I wasn't getting any of that reaction right there. I don't have no ratchets out at the moment to do a demonstration with them on a ratchet, because as you can see with these US General 5-drawer tool carts, once the lid is closed, you can't get into the drawers. Okay. But just to give you, a little idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, so now I got the Tecton on the anvil of the snap-on 3/8 drive breaker bar here, and I'm basically getting the same rough amount of play that the Milwaukee was basically given, okay, to this particular breaker bar here. I should have had got out some of my snap-on sockets so that I can basically put the snap-on snap-on, because their sockets and measurements are basically designed for their own equipment. But that technically wasn't the demonstration that I was trying to show in this video. I was mainly more just trying to demonstrate of a particular name brand products being mixed with other equipment. Okay. And when you have mixed products mixing with different equipment, okay, working in a professional field and working in a professional settings, working on cars daily, I believe, in situations like this, when you're using sockets and using ratchets, and you have basically all of this play, and just hypothetically speaking, if you were using cordless or air pneumatic, you will be putting a whole lot much more wear either to the socket or the anvil, due to the fact that they're not really, they're the same drive size, but they're really not designed the same. Okay. Or basically, they're not as compatible as they should be due to the fact of the drive sizes. Okay. Okay, so yeah, that was just a few things I just wanted to point that out on the humble, because it was just something that I just happened to come across, with the Craftsman's ratchet, and just taking a look at the placement, fitment, between certain brands and what extensions and sockets and so on and so forth. I can shoot the footage a little bit more differently, if it was pre-planned or thought out a little bit more better. I'm doing things at a spontaneous moment. Okay, like I said, when I'm throwing up these videos, it's not like, I'm a professional commentator or professional video photographer and things like that, nor do I have individuals around, that can hold a camera for me while I'm actually demonstrating some of the equipment in order to give you a good, perfect example. Okay, but that's just pretty much about it on the day. I'm gonna wrap this video up because I do have a few things to do. Okay, I just want to shed a little light on that, you know, and just goes to show you, when it comes down to, unquality and type tools testically compared to professional equipment, you get what basically works best for you. If you're not in the field and you don't work in a professional field, and it doesn't require for you to have professional equipment, and you only use tools every so often, then it may not necessarily be anything for you. But for the individuals out there who do work in our profession and they do put tools through the motions, there's some people out there that would like to know the information before they technically get out and start purchasing certain items that technically really is not worth it. But when it comes to them Tecton impact socket sets, whether it's half-inch drive, shallow, deep, 3/8 drive, like, I definitely recommend them. Okay, they hold up to the test. When it comes to them, if you don't have the finances to basically um, buy two truck brand equipment, Sunex, Gray Pneumatic, and the Tectons, that's the way to go. Gray Pneumatic is, to me personally, Gray Pneumatic is a more higher quality, but the Tectons will work just fine, because what I like about them is that, in their sets, they technically don't have no skips. They do have a few sets that do actually have a skips, but they're more uncommon sizes that we technically don't really normally use. And if you do use that size, you can actually get those sockets and, just fill it in, whatever the case might be. But there's no major skips in their sets like some other sets, especially like how Snap-on does. Okay, because the company, they know what they're doing when they give you uncompleted sets, and the sets coming from off the tool trucks and things like that are very expensive. So filling in those sockets are very expensive, $40 a socket, and sometimes a little bit more. Okay, if you're buying it from the truck or you're buying it from the online site, yeah, you may be able to get them cheaper, on other platforms such as eBay and so on and so forth, but you still got to think about the cost that you paid for the set, okay, with the added addition of those sockets. So, at the end of the day, it do become very expensive. So for them younger technicians out there, just be aware of that. Do your research before you start purchasing all sorts of different equipment, and then, you find yourself in debt, and then once you got the equipment in your hands, and then you realize that the equipment is not, all cracked out to what it is to be, you'll get the idea and you'll understand. Okay, so until later, to the next one, I'm gonna check you. Everybody enjoy your evening out there. Peace.